and I work with Spark Market Research. We are a research agency based in Dublin. We do all sorts of research, from qualitative research to quantitative research. On our logo we have a jelly baby, and part of our ethos is that you can be professional, but you can also be fun. So I know you've all had lunch, but there are free jelly babies here if you want to pass around. And I know it's a health conference, but you can still have a little bit of fun. I was talking to a sports psychologist there at lunch, and he said, it's okay, it's not a bad thing to do. So that's the whole idea. We love what we do. I love research. I love finding out new things about people. I've just done a little bit of research there in each of you and where you're coming from. And I'm not so tall that I'm going to be in the way of my slides here as I talk through them. So basically, when I was approached to talk today, I thought, research. So it's a conference about research and innovation. What could I talk about? And I was discussing with one of my colleagues, and then she said, why don't you do innovation in research? And I thought, oh gosh, innovation is such a title where you feel such pressure to go, gosh, I'm doing something really different here. But that's an interesting thing in itself. So what I'm going to take you through today is basically, initially, I have to go this way, initially, So initially, I'll take you through a bit about my journey as a researcher. And interestingly, I've been talking to a few of you already, and some people have gone on different career paths as well. So if I can help some people in terms of your career path and sort of possibilities you might not have thought you would have, that could be one thing. But also about the possibilities that different disciplines can learn from each other. I'll talk to you about some of the challenges you can have when you're a researcher, some of the possibilities, and then what we can also learn from the different disciplines that I have personally worked with. Okay, so first of all, a little bit about me, and you obviously see the picture of the jelly baby, and I hope I don't look fully like that. So being a researcher so far, I was just telling the girls there, the rest of the group there, that I'm going to give a little bit about my journey, not to be all about me, but to give you a bit of background. So the first part of my road, I started out working in or studying psychology and being very interested, very curious about people around me. And every time we had to do an experiment, I just thought, gosh, I want to know a little bit more. So that sort of instilled this love for research and what research could do. Is it working okay? If we go to the next step, so then I ended up finishing college, thinking, what do I do next? And I ended up in market research roles. Now that was going from a very sort of psychology background to a real life kind of scenario of how do you actually apply research in real life, and it was the most steep learning curve I can really tell you. Like I was working on so many different types of projects, so many different types of methods, and I learned so much in that phase of my life. I wouldn't change it, but I did take a very different step next. So the next step I took was that I went off to work in a charity. It was with children in care, and I worked on a project that was about their mental health. Now that brought me to slow down the research process, to really look at what was happening on a much slower level, and to look at the analysis methods I could use and everything. And it was a really great experience as well, because it allowed me to basically use different methods. I also did a PhD in social work, so I basically used a method called interpretative phenomenological analysis. And the only person I ever met who could pronounce that with no problem was a nurse. So he was well used to having to do things like this. But using a method like that, where you really broke down the research process, I had supervision with a social work theorist who made me think about critically what I was doing as a researcher and what preconceptions I might bring to the research process, and then what impact that had on the research that I did as well. So that was a really good slowing down of the research process. I then ended up in the health field. So I'd gone from market research to social research, then to health. And in health, I worked in a pharma company, and we worked on a large study about diabetes in 17 different countries. So we looked at the impact of diabetes, psychologically and also socially in across all those different areas. So that was widening out the focus again, but on a very, very different level. And so finally, and I say finally because I think I found my home. I'm back in market research. I like where I am. I like what I could take from where I've been and where I could go from here as well. And that's basically the core of what I want to talk about today. The reality of market research. So I came into market research, I suppose, back into market research with a different toolkit. And I tried to think, what am I going to do with this toolkit? I didn't know where I was really going to go. And what I found, and why I'm here today, is that I still can keep that interest in the social side of things, the health side of things, with a new set of possibilities that I can use within the market research context. So it's a bit like that in our office when we all sit together. I love that, coming back to the team aspect of being able to sit with other researchers and bounce ideas off each other and come up with new methodologies and be really creative with the process. So that's why I think the innovation in research, I think, comes from being able to blend those side of things. In terms of the challenges, of course we face many challenges. And one of the things is, what direction do you go in? And as the quote says here, if you go in one direction, the best route may involve going in another. So we have a picture here, which could be, and pardon the language, it could be that you just do the same old shit. Or you could go to crazy new shit. So I probably sit somewhere in the middle and delve my head in and out in either direction when I need to. And it's kind of nice to have that license to do that in a way where you can do something a little bit different. And that's probably why I like being back in market research. Getting out of the habit of the same old, but also taking the walk less, or the path less walked once in a while as well. What happens when we get a research brief is usually that we get a client, they want to unlock the kind of behaviour that perhaps their customers have, or services. They want to maybe do a competitor or brand evaluation and so forth, or assess what needs to be done for them as a company or as an organisation. And we could do it the traditional, I won't use that language, way, or we could try to make a twist on that. So there's nothing wrong with doing things the traditional way. It's obviously there for a reason, but sometimes it's that twist that makes it that little bit more insightful or exciting as well. So for example, in a typical research solution, you would often find 4 to 6 focus groups and then 6 in-depth interviews. But as a twist on that, so there's still an element of the same stuff, so you're not going too far down the other road, but you're given a little bit of a twist. So you have a mobile group where you go, you do the group, but you go towards your stimulus, for want of a better word. So for us, it could be that we go to a retail environment, it could be that you go to a social care setting or so forth, but that you actually experience what you're doing within the group context and bring that back together again. We also do like walk-alongs to actually just walk with the person. It could be, again, in a social environment, it could be in a retail environment, but to actually walk side by side and to ask them as they go, and what are you thinking about there, and why did you do that, and so forth, to sort of slow down their journey and press pause and see where they're at. Also, I've mentioned their diaries and storyboards and flip cams, so we often would film what is happening as we go along, and that brings such a, I suppose, just life to the presentations that we give at the end of the day as well. Challenging each element of the process. One of the things we think we need to challenge is the group itself, the makeup. Sometimes it is actually better to get to know a smaller number. Like the market research was developed in the 1970s with the standard size of a group being 68 people, but we have found out actually it's good to make that group a little bit smaller and to really get to know people. So within that group process you can find, like, of 8 people, there'll be one person that just starts to get quiet, or there's only so many times you can probe to ask a little bit more, so it's one person or 2 people might fall out of the process. So at times we try to break it down to 4 or 6 people to really get what they feel, and that the group dynamics works really well together. And then I suppose the contrast of that is to have super groups where you use a larger number. So we've had like 2 moderators with 16 people be able to talk to people and get this massive creative process going along. So it's also a different side of the spectrum. Challenge in the timing. So traditionally it would be 1.5 hours, but sometimes, for example, when we do ad testing, 45 minutes is enough to the point where people aren't over thinking something that they really don't give that much thought to. So the 45-minute mark gives you enough time to get to know where they're at. Or sometimes it could be longer, 3 hours, where you really need to get in depth and get into more core feelings and so forth. Challenging the role of the moderator. Now this is one of the parts I think is just really fascinating. We've used Gogglebox sessions where we go into someone's home and we leave the camera with them. We give tasks that they open. It's unsealed, so they love the kind of sign that this is like a game. And the things that you see off when you leave the room, the dynamic completely changes. So just by the moderator not being there makes such a huge difference. What about the new possibilities? So this is where we can think about our relationship, say, with qualitative research. At the start, you think about qualitative research being, I'm going to go deep. But actually, what we have found with qualitative research is about actually the breadth of qualitative research makes such a difference. And that, for those of you that weren't here earlier, my background in social research has really helped to give that wider perspective of what is happening in qualitative research, to look at the macro and the micro and see the person in context. Reinventing the quant side of things. I love our quant department have really colourful questionnaires, and what they try to do is to make the questionnaire much more interactive. So the fact that a lot of online research now has come into quant has helped things so much, because you can put pictures, you can put logos, and it's not just a black and white questionnaire on the screen. Layering, we also use as much new technology as possible to try to layer up what's happening in the person's life. So this is where I kind of show you about the technology that we would use. So we would look at mobile phones, look at even sometimes eye blink technology to see where people's eyes are going, look at what's happening inside their homes, leaving cameras with them. Also we have very sort of unobtrusive cameras that can follow the person as they go through their day. And then blogging, so looking at what's happening in those digital spaces. We also have been able to bring in other people into, say, an ideation station and so forth, where you can actually tap into the creative minds of other people and other mindsets, like musicians. Have a sketch artist look at how you can mock up concepts in the real life situation. And we're trying not to, in the debrief process, have death by PowerPoint. Now that's ironic that I'm doing PowerPoint today, but I'm trying to do it in a different kind of way as well. So there are things like Pechakucha, where you can have 20 slides in a 20-second remit, having real life footage or documentary, and then a menu of debrief. So it could, basically what we're saying is that some clients want the kitchen sink and some clients want to be entertained or to really get a message that's going to stick in their heads. And I suppose it's about finding the outfits that fit the audience that you have. So learning from other disciplines, and to kind of sum up my talk, what can we take from each of the disciplines that, say, I have lived through in my research career? So first of all, when you're working in a field setting, you have to keep things real. You have to make the language that you use and so forth resonate with participants. So while you might have a great theoretical framework, it has to be real in their world. In the social side of things, never look at participants in a vacuum. So think about that wider context, what's happening in society and community that's influencing them, and bringing that into the methods that you use. From a health perspective, what I find is having worked in the health sector and now come into the market research sector, there's such a health mindset that's coming into everything that you couldn't possibly imagine, even through from the retail side of things, but also the pharma side of things and so forth. And lastly, in market research, one of the things in market research is that, and actually I had a talk with Sinead there from Maynooth before we started the talk about what's actually possible within the sector. And the sectors kind of can blend into each other as well. But the difference with market research, I think, is you have a lot more possibilities to really see action from what you do, because someone comes with a real life problem, you have to find a solution that will meet that, and then they actually tangibly can go to use that. So I love it when I go into environments and I see, gosh, that's because of my research, you know, and you feel you can really make a difference, because I suppose one of the frustrations sometimes is you do such good work and it feels like it ends up in a research report. So that's in a nutshell, my talk. I think the ideal is to have a balance of all these disciplines and for these disciplines to learn from each other. So I'd be very interested if anybody wants to talk afterwards about any kind of synergies as well. And of course, last but not least, the possibilities are limitless. We've only gone half of the way there. If anybody wants to come and visit, we're based in Blanchardstown. That's what our offices look like, so we have a colourful day-to-day. And so I don't think we have time for questions, but thank you very much. I have some more jelly babies because I explained to the others earlier that the idea is that our research is fun, but also professional. So you can have a little jelly baby from our logo, and there's some cards there if anybody wants to.